Yeah, I was kind of angry on management. This kind of things makes me feel more angry. I want to play even more and destroy everyone.
Oh, he's seen the shadow. What? Oh, what is that? Monacy's in the air.
Monacy and Nico make it happen. The little terrible trio, troublesome, twosome.
And I was like, for like next 3-4 hours, I was just crying, and that's it.
My name is Burt. I love talking about Counter Strike, and if you do too, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting down below. It's very much appreciated. And be sure to join our Discord because we talk Counter Strike 24/7. And if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to join. So, what happened to G2? Well, we all know what happened. They got fucked. In the words of the general manager, Petsa said this: losing our star player mid-season now hits even harder with the departure of the best player in the world. They lost our star franchise player and possibly the best player in the world, all in 4 months. How did this happen? Was it inevitable? And most importantly, whose fault is it? I will answer all those questions and look at all the mistakes they made, how they lost Nico, and with that, how they lost Monacy, and how their next few months are gonna look like. That's 4 things. So, firstly, how did this all happen? Well, it's easy. Mismanagement. Let us take a look at all the instances of mismanagement, and for that, I'm bringing out the board. Look at this. Doesn't that look fucking great? Starting from when they lost Executors.
I mean, it was super chaotic because nobody actually knew that Extas and Niak were about to leave. Like, it also hit us very unexpectedly. And then from Monday to the other, it was like, hey, you're the coach now, basically.
Without anybody on the roster being aware, they lost their coach Executors, and Swanee had to jump in short notice. In the news article that came out, it actually stated that Executors decided to step down himself. So maybe he wasn't communicating with the organization that he was gonna suddenly step down. So can I really blame the management for this, mismanagement? I don't really blame the management. I don't count it as mismanagement actually, because they got Swanee, who had a good relationship and who actually managed to win some trophies with him. So I'm just gonna say it's just a spontaneous fire and they put Swanee on it to, extinguish it. I mean, it's a metaphor. They extinguished the fire. I think it's not mismanagement, all right? Not this one. So I'm not gonna count that one, all right? Second, JKS. They kicked JKS without having a solid replacement for him in mind.
We were just thinking that we needed to restructure in a way that we would compensate for the loss of Nico's voice. And we didn't think, or at the time we didn't think that like one voice could cover Nico's input. So we wanted to change 2 guys, which in hindsight was obviously a mistake. I feel like the decision was rushed and we didn't take enough time, because we should have definitely taken more time to find a better solution for replacing JKS. But yeah, that's a management decision, because in the end, the management is making all those decisions. And
JKS is not the perfect player because there's been a lot of talking that he doesn't really talk and he maybe doesn't bring up the vibes as much because he's a very quiet guy. I'm not saying he takes the vibes down, but they decided to kick him, and for that they wanted to get Nexa. And I think Nexa was not the play. He was too old. He was a bit, I don't want to like this word, but he's a bit washed. And they expected him to talk and take some more of the leadership roles. But strangely enough, he didn't do it. JKS was miles better. And then having your star player say this is not great. And this is a recurring issue.
But yeah, and when Nexa came, I didn't really know that he was calm. I just find out about it like a few days before practice.
Was it sad to see JKS go? Did you understand like this is what needed to happen?
Yeah, no, honestly speaking fair, I was very sad that JKS left. I didn't understand the point of removing him from the team. Yeah, I started thinking that why people, not making me like, didn't tell me that, for example.
So you're not involved.
Yeah, not involved in this kind of things.
So was it management's fault to kick JKS? Ex-coach Swanee surely thinks so, with him saying it was a rash decision and that it didn't really matter because management already made up their mind. But G2's CEO Albon Deschalotte did an interview with HLTV confirmed, where he said this about Swanee saying what he said.
I'm afraid Swanee, because he's retired from esports, his memory failed him a bit, you know. But I have a very distinct souvenir of a written feedback from him saying that we should bench JKS as soon as possible. We should not wait another 2 weeks because this is the right thing to do for us.
Sorry, this is a very he said, she said situation. I'm just putting everything out there. I want to have all the facts, alright? I want to show you. I do research, alright? So, kicking JKS was a mistake and was mismanagement. You know, you can't always get the right player, and I don't think that's mismanagement. But if you remove a good player and just get a terrible player, I think this was mismanagement and it made the players very unhappy, specifically star players. Not communicating and ghosting JKS.
I don't think there's any excuse for the way we did not communicate with Justin at that time. He was in Australia, completely in the limbo, and that's not good. That's not the right thing to do. I know Petsa apologized to him in public, but also directly. I still believe this was not the appropriate thing to do. And
like the first point, a mistake in communication. Communication is very difficult, I get it, but this was straight up ghosting a player, which is not professional, and I will say that is mismanagement. But at least they accept their mistakes and actually apologize to JKS, which I respect. You don't see a lot of orcs and people do that, so I'm happy that they did. Point 4. No assistant coach. Swanee had to step in on short notice and was their head coach for over a year. He was getting worked like a dog and was getting burned out. Yet G2 was in no rush to get him an assistant coach. Which is probably the reason why Swanee decided to step down, just like Exectaz did. Just like Exectaz did. He was overworked and is on record saying this. Now the time has come to take care of myself and my loved ones, he said. I gradually felt worse throughout the year and it has taken a big toll on me. Well, that's clear as day. Swanee could have stayed in G2, having made G2 way more stable if they just gave him some help with an assistant coach. And having that stability would probably keep your star players. Point 5. Taz. Just Taz. That's it. This is only his first team, and his first job is to coach G2 Esports, who like to see themselves as the Galacticos of esports. So, nah, that doesn't work.
I don't blame Taz for it, because obviously everyone would take the opportunity, right? But I don't think it was a smart decision to put him in there while Huxi didn't really want him as well. So again, when you're management, you talk to your ITL wants this coach, okay, you take this coach. And if it doesn't work out, okay, then you can still change the ITL, but...
So Huxi wanted someone else. And most likely that is Vorborg, because that's the only coach who he played with and who wasn't doing anything at the time. And to who, of course, he had that major playoff run with Copenhagen Flames. But who wanted Taz?
I think Nico picked Taz. This is what I'm reading into.
I'm not going to be specific, as you can imagine.
Sharp, prof, good shit, good question.
In this roster at that time, so much experience, so much firepower, so much tactical knowledge that we don't feel that we need a very strategic coach. We just need someone that will drive the collective and input with like some knowledge that only a major winner player can bring.
The CEO admits Taz is not a strategic coach, but someone who is seemingly able to rally the troops. Well, it was seemingly no one who wanted Taz in G2, but they still thought, fuck it. And lastly, letting Nico slip through their fingers. This was the consequence of all the mismanagement and the reason everything went to shit. And if you don't believe me why Nico was the key player in G2 Esports, how he was the glue guy, the leader, the voice, almost the IGL in some ways, Nico was the emotional leader.
The emotional leader, I guess, for the team at that point in time.
I mean, a lot was Nico and Huxi as well, but like Nico and Huxi were always the loudest voices and the leaders.
I would say there is only one leader who was always here.
Who?
Nicola.
Nico, yeah.
Man,
that's expected.
This guy
But
he can coach, he can lead, he can be captain.
So let me ask you this
he can
then.
be rifle, oper,
My
anchor.
beside the fangirling and Monacy seemingly in love with Nico, he has a point. And if your absolute best player you've ever had on your roster and who is able to serve your organization for years, who is alarmingly in love with another player, you do everything in your power to keep them happy and keep that player in the roster. But then the CEO comes out saying this: if we wanted to keep Nico, we could have done so. I don't have to tell you, that's bad. But I will tell you, it's horrendous. So it makes sense Monacy 2 wanted to leave. And even ex-coach Swanee says the same thing about Nico, how crucial he was.
I think it was just a Nico domino effect. It didn't really have anything to do. I think Nico was the domino that started it. Nico is one of the best teammates and he helped me a lot as well.
So saying you could have kept him but you didn't want to is crazy. So now the organization is without the generational talents in the form of Nico and Monacy, and also without a plan for the future. But was this all inevitable? We know there was mismanagement, but why was there mismanagement? And more importantly, in today's pitchfork society, who's to blame? Many people have been critical of their coach, Taz. And it's true, Taz is not a good enough coach. Not back then and not now. But the issues we spoke about were there way before Taz joined the roster. He is not the problem, he's just a product of it. And then we have the man who we started the video with, Petsa, who has been under fire from the community for some time now, with him saying this: the backlash has been fierce. I'm flooded with hateful messages, accusations, and even death threats. If you're one of the people who is sending death threats to the general manager of an esports organization in Counter Strike, grow up. You can make a video criticizing every minute detail that they got wrong over the past few years and work on it for hours if not days, but not death threats, alright? Use your time wisely, people. And besides that, I don't think Petsa is the problem. Remember Mr. Dolce Delechi? I mean Mr. Descilotti? Well, this is how he said the G2 organization is structured and how decisions get made. And it explains a lot.
Do you mind if I put this first in context of like how do we work at G2 on these kind of decisions?
Go for it.
We have right now, I think, 10 rosters in 7 games. So it's not like we have a process for CS and something else for the others. We are kind of like way of working for all rosters, all player change and things like that. Starts with like daily reports from every single roster that come from either the staff or the management or both. And then every quarter, we sit down with the general manager or the team manager to assess the whole situation about the roster. As fair as possible assessment of the situation for the rosters. And that's where we assess if we see a change for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years for each position, player and staff. So that's the first thing. As you can hear, this is kind of like a split of task. The staff, by staff I mean the coaching staff mostly, we expect some report about in-game things, and then from the management, which is team manager, general manager, we expect about a bit more like interpersonal relationship, aspiration, frustration, what the players are saying outside of the server. And then for the meeting, the general manager, famous Pekka for some people who know him, come to kind of like an assessment, but also some recommendation with the input of everybody. So final decision is always on executive team, but that's kind of like a process that we have on more than CS.
So I think he said executive team, but I'm not sure.
Something you mentioned there about like the decision to like sell or buy a player, you said is on the executive part. So just maybe to clarify that, because you said kind of Petsa makes recommendations and then it's on you and Julius to make the sales, or how does it work if I understood correctly?
So Julius is the director of esports, is considered by me as management because he's like in charge of the vertical of all the rosters. He usually is the person that partner with the GM or the TM to cook the recommendation, and then executive team is like the CEO, the CFO, and the COO, so the 3 executive of the company.
So what the Frenchman is saying is that the general of esports and the general of Counter Strike, Petsa, think about a strategy, what to do next, and then they bring it in front of the executive team, the CEO, the CFO, and the COOs. He says they make the final says about what happens to all the different rosters, spanning 10 different games. But I don't think that's something you should brag about. Because, like a hammer is a great tool, but it's not a great tool to fix 10 different video game rosters across 10 different games. I don't know what I'm saying. And if you didn't remember, this was the guy saying that they could have kept Nico, but they decided against it. Well, he knew he fucked up.
But I think it really sounded like I don't value Nico as good as he is, as a legend of the game, and it's not fair. I didn't like it, so that's me apologizing to him.
So it is the executive team who can be blamed for the mismanagement, not Taz, not Petsa, but the CEO and his cronies. And were they given an easy job, but they still fucked up? No. They were in some tough predicaments, and the CEO said this about the trouble they were dealing with.
And then in 48 hours, we got hit by 3 bombs, okay? First, we learned that Nico has proactively talked to Falcons for 6 months to agree on a deal without talking to us. It was leaked. That's how we discovered it. m0NESY, who has been, and it's very clear, he's been poached for the last 3 years by all the Russian teams, but very directly by Cloud9. And m0NESY basically telling us that if Nico is going, and apparently it's done, he also wants to go to Cloud9. And then following that, Nema, feeling a bit betrayed by the action, also asking to move to Vitality, where he has already a deal waiting for him. So that was kind of like a bit of a shock.
But then you have to ask, why did everybody wanted to jump ship? Why did everybody wanted to dip? And also, you're a multi-million-dollar esports organization who is striving to become the best in the world. So if you want to be the big cheese, you have to be ready if some people want to take a nibble from you. I'm sorry. So, what now? How will G2 get back to the top? Well, first off, you have to keep your core of 3 players to keep your VRS points. If you don't, you're gonna end up like NIP and be all like 96th in the VRS rankings and not get any invites. So you have to keep those 3 players. You have 5 players, but Hades is just on loan. So in reality, you only have Malps, Heavy-God, Hunter and Snacks. You have a non-vocal, non-leadership, non-fragging, non-tactical IGL in the form of Snacks. Get him out. If we have to believe m0NESY, of course.
That's where Nico was very strong, you know. He could like call mid rounds on CT. But on T side, we had no structure, and we could have just played like very freestylish way, you know.
And now we're left only with 3 players, and you have to keep these 3 players for the core, of course. So that's it. You have to keep these guys, which is fine. I think they're fine. Malps is not bad. Well, he has been playing quite bad, but it's fine. He will get back there. I know he will, and he's a good guy. He brings in vibes. He's a bit hard on himself with all these tweets, but he will get back there. Heavy-God, he just needs a stable roster around him, and he will blossom. Hunter, that's more to desire. But I think he could be a great anchor. I think he could be a good emotional leader, bring experience in tough games, and be a leader in some ways. So, could be worse, could be worse. So now you need an AWPer and an IGL. And they only have to be world class, because that's what G2 needs. So, how hard can that be? Simple.
Would G2 consider simple?
I think if we would have considered him, I think it would have happened earlier in his career. I think since his transition to CS2, I think he's less on the top of the wish list from top orgs like us. He has an amazing career. He's an amazing player. But right now, I think we are more focused on like younger players.
Oh, rats. The CEO has already hinted at some plans in the future, saying this.
The post-Nico evolution would probably can't replace someone like Ilya with just one trade of one player. He's too much of a role for us and too much of an impact. So we are planning to make more than one changes and potentially players or staff or both. And we're already working on it. I like that I'm not going to be able to confirm the buyout because I don't want to give us indication to the agent of the clubs that we're talking to. But we are,
you have a lot of money to spend, you mean?
Well, we have
He says he's looking for young players to build a real roster around for the future, which I like. I hope they get Shui, because that's the player they need right now. I told them in this video, I called them, I said I did everything, they need him. But Shui is trying out in Team Liquid right now, and he could disappear from the shop window soon. But I actually think he said something else that I found a little bit more interesting. He said he was even thinking of making changes in the management. Well, remember that tweet that I showed at the beginning of the video? The Petsa tweet? Well, in it, he said this specific line. Love me or hate me, scapegoat me or point fingers, I'm not going anywhere. Well, I don't know if that's so true anymore. Especially that word, scapegoat. Because I fear that's exactly what the CEO has in mind. Petsa did lose 2 generational star players in the span of only 4 months. And like discussed, he has a lot of negativity around him. And while I believe it's not solely his fault, I do fear he will be the one that will put his head under the X. Because at the end of the day, it's the big cheese that decides. The big French cheese. My name is Burt. Thank you very much for watching. Consider liking, subscribing, and commenting down below. Let me know your thoughts. Am I right? Am I wrong? What do you think G2 should do? And consider joining our Discord where we talk about Counter Strike non-stop. So don't miss that. See you in the next video. Bye.